It was because I was selfish, the male double standard. You can't do as I do. But beneath the surface, the question was about honesty, trust, and sincere communication. Although the relationship has ended, the question still resonates as I find the healthiest version of myself. Is monogamy a part of that path? I'm joined today for this conversation, 1 versus 100. Monogamy as a choice with WBOK's own True Love Movement hosts, Mama Fire and Brother Shaq. How y'all doing?
What's happening, brother?
Man, I'm excited. Mama Fire, how are you?
I'm feeling great. Honored to be here.
Oh, I am honored. We're going to have a great show today. We always ask this question, and we're going to put it in a little context today. What's the revolution behind the True Love Movement?
I love that question.
Definitely.
What's the revolution? So, True Love Movement is all about evolution, about personal evolution. It's about finding true love in yourself first. And that's the premise. That is the premise of True Love Movement. Finding it in yourself first and letting it echo out to those who come from you, your children, to your family, to your those in your home, those in your neighborhood, those in your community, out into the whole Black nation.
Right.
What I call the Black nation is our people. And so we're looking for love and unity, and that only comes from when we have it for ourselves and in ourselves.
Right.
And so it's all about developing that in our people. And I'll let Brother Shaq talk a little bit about his people.
Right on, definitely. So, revolution. That's it, man. That's it. And I know that's often an overused term. Many people talk about revolution. Simply, True Love Movement, we're in the work of rehumanizing Black people. Because we understand that for us to have survived what we've experienced here in America, that was it has been an ongoing humanization process. And so we're in the rehumanizing work specifically for our people. And so we consider that to be revolutionary, but even more specific, I say, looking at just at our community, each one of us is a spoken we. And I'm talking those old school those true rims, trues and votes. I'm talking to somebody.
There you go, yeah.
I'm talking trues and votes.
Exactly.
But I use that analogy the way I see our people in our community, particularly in the areas, that if you remember those 100 spoke rims, each one of them was separate and individual. And there was a process called truing. Because when you ride the wall in the streets, the rim get wide.
Right.
And so the process called truing, it adjusts the tension of each individual spoke in relationship to the one above it and below. And so I say that each one of us is a spoke in the we. And as we work on ourselves and improve our own conditions, we better fit with our people. And so that's our individual contribution to the whole. That's the Ubuntu principle. But when everybody tightens up their spoke and that wheel becomes true, because truing is a process. Again, it's a special tool that adjusts the tension. But when we do that, the wheel will roll like it's supposed to. It'll roll straight. Right now it's wild. It's rolling.
Exactly.
But but see, once it rolls straight, and the wheel will handle it. When the wheel turns, you have a revolution.
Right, exactly.
That's
a true revolution.
Correct.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's our revolution.
Now, I love that. I'm going to unpack a couple things from that, because that is poignant. Mama Fire, you said something about loving ourselves.
Yes.
You know, and what does that actually look like for us when we love ourselves? You know, because global revolution does not exist without personal revolution. Like you said, we've got to love ourselves before we can love someone else. What does that actually look like for us to love ourselves?
I think we're in kind of like a Trinity idea of self-love. It's been happening. People have been talking about it a lot. And it's levels to it. You know, there's levels to loving yourself. Some people think it's just about how you treat yourself as far as how you look, how you take care of yourself. It's so much deeper. It's all about action. All about action is what you do. And so, you know, we are moving every day, all the time. And so I ask myself if I am making any type of decision, any choice, is this me loving myself? Okay?
Right.
That's the question I ask.
I love that.
Right?
Is it me loving myself in this
me?
action?
That's right. Is this me loving myself? And in this practice of self-love, I have to ask myself that on a daily basis, on a choice-by-choice basis. And so this is a practice of loving yourself daily. And so it's more than how you take care of yourself, it's how you treat yourself and how you treat other people.
Right.
It has to do with your action with others as well, with yourself and with others. And so, I'd like to really run down a day of what self-love looks like, but it looks like something different all the time.
Every day.
All
But
the
it's
time.
still undergirded by that one question.
Yes.
Is this me loving myself? Rachel, did you hear that? Are you paying attention, Rachel? Rachel's not even looking at me. Like, Rachel's not loving herself right now. But that's what we need to get out. That question in everything we do. Is this me loving myself? In my relationships, in my actions, the people that I associate with,
Yes.
what I'm doing. Should I stay or should I go?
That's right.
Oh, I love that.
It's a daily practice.
It's a daily practice, and that should be a part of your personal revolution. That's interesting. For a second, I want to go back to that truth, and that revolution. Really tightening ourselves up. And I think that really resonates with what you're saying, that still, am I loving myself in the practice? How do you true yourself? How do you tighten yourself up and then go out and help others tighten themselves up so we can have this revolution?
Well, I think there is no real separation between me and say you. So, because I'm good with you, honey, good with you, you just me over there. So I don't look at you any differently than I look at myself, but from a sincere standpoint, not theoretical. So when we see what the human connection is, really acknowledging the human connection, there is no separation, particularly from Black people. And that's important because we've been collectivized politically. So we don't think in terms of ourselves as individuals as far as our contribution. We more or less think of ourselves as individuals where our suffering is concerned.
Right.
But that's usually the shame, because we are in a large collective of people thinking that we're having this individual experience, and we don't have a sense of what our oppression is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And because I'm clear about me, and I love myself authentically, unconditionally, it would be dehumanizing for me to do anything else towards you or anybody else in this life. I couldn't possibly love myself and mistreat you. It's impossible.
If many of our young brothers and sisters, as they think about their actions, again, that question is still resonating with me. Is this me loving myself and my actions? We got to begin to instill that question into our young people, into our young brothers, because they have been dehumanized, and then they dehumanize others. And that thought process that you just said, that if I see myself as whole, if I am loving myself, how could I then mistreat you?
It's always the litmus test. True love movement, we say we know hurt people. All of us, we know hurt people. Right?
Yes, they do.
So at True Love movement, we say, so just imagine what healed people can do for our people.
Right.
That's our.
Now, this is like the first 13 minutes of the show. Y'all can't be jumping this early. You know what I'm saying? This is the first 13 minutes of the show. You are listening to the What's Your Revolution show on WBOK1230 AM, powered by our good sponsor, Aetna. We're having a good conversation right now early about how do we love ourselves and what does it mean to then take that concept and build it out into the community. If anybody's watching on Facebook, they know if they're seeing this couple, they are beautiful. They are a beautiful, beautiful couple, and you can see the love that emanates as they walk through the door. The show is really geared towards understanding this choice about, particularly for men and their partners, how do they get to that point where this is what it looks like for them? So I'm going to ask that question for you. How did you all get to this space, this beautiful, loving, appreciative partnership that you have, that when you walk in the door, everybody gets to see? I mean, really, it is beautiful just seeing you all together. So how did you get to this point?
Well, he always tells a story that we've been friends forever, which is true, for the last 30 years. And, it started off, of course, as friendship with the children. And we met each other, and we knew each other through other people's relationships, too.
She was bad.
We went through several relationships separately. And in every relationship, you grow. It should be that way, right? There's a lesson there. And so several relationships just growing and growing and growing. And so we've been together, we said 8 years, coming in November. And so, 8 years is a drop in the bucket compared to our age, and all the relationships that we've been in. And so I think the last relationship before this relationship, I realized in dissolving that relationship that I needed the space to truly be able to love myself completely. And the relationship was dragging, and I took a leap of faith to say, I know that I'd rather be alone in this than to be told you're not good enough, or that's wrong, or whatever. And so I knew that the next relationship, if any relationship, was going to have to support me on my journey of loving myself, and whatever that looked like. So being open to me and open to my growth, because I'm growing exponentially in each relationship. And so I knew if I was going to give someone else a chance in my life, they would have to understand not only just love who they are, right? Love themselves and be a healthy person to attract my healthy person.
Right.
And then come together, it would be a powerful thing. So I just, and then he appeared. And then he appeared.
Right.
And that's really how it was. I took that step and said, nah, I know this is hard, I shouldn't, but guess what? Is this me loving myself?
Right.
And I decided that I needed to get out of the relationship and not get into another one until I found someone who was matching the self-love that I had for myself and the want and desire to sharpen each other.
Right.
And so marriage appeared.
Right. But second, I want to ask you, because she's told her story now. How did you get ready for her?
I think, as she described the previous relationships, like everything that you're doing is getting you ready for the next thing. But in the course of my last relationship before this one, I had self-reflection. Like, how did I create this for myself? But what I'm saying is that earlier in the show, when we were running it down, the self-examination piece, the why, particularly for Black people, that is the question. Because why deals more with the analysis. Because I don't think we have a consistent sense of our own power, we're stuck on the block. So we'll identify what's wrong all day. But when it comes to looking at why it's wrong, we feel some shame about that. Because we come from a place where we shouldn't have problems. So we think.
Right.
That just shows we have no historical context of our existence in America. Of course we have problems. I mean, look at our experience. But when we're really looking at why, being able to have an assessment, a thorough assessment, a thorough examination of who I am and how I create this reality, and then the fortitude to say, okay, so what do I want? And then how do I be what I want in order to attract it? Not looking for something, I wasn't looking for something to make me better. I was looking to be better, to create better. Because I understood if I can create better, then I can co-create amazing.
Right.
So that's kind of where I was.
But that's a hard process, because, and I say that, and maybe I'm doing the wrong thing the psychologists do. I'm transferring. But that can be a very hard process for men, because you really have to step back and do a hard self-analysis. How did I get here? I'm at the end of a relationship. I want these things in my life, but how did I get here? And then doing that self-analysis, that I made the decisions, I made these choices to be involved in this relationship, to allow it to progress to where it is now, and then now I'm walking out of it. And as I always say, no one's all good and no one's all bad. We vacillate between the two in some part of the relationship, but walking away from it, you have to do that self-analysis. And I don't believe that many men will actually do that. We will just fall back to our normal behavior.
Well, yeah, but you know why? You said it. It's a process. And so in this patriarchal society, anything, because when we're talking about the process, we're talking about men energy, that's feminine energy. Feminine energy is a process for men. As men, we are looking at events. And if it's not an event, then we devalue it. Because society gives us the messaging that if something doesn't happen instantly, it's not happening. So we're turned off by the idea that I have to go through a process because it is feminine. It's a feminine energy. So because we have a disdain for all things feminine, we socialize everything.
Exactly. We talk about that so much. Yes.
Right. So that's why I'm talking to you in that language. Because I know you know that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm saying that's why. That's the why. So being able to recognize the feminine energy that we have within us and the value that when to employ that and how to gain the benefit from it, that's the skill. So this is still a skills-based exercise, which is still, that's a masculine.
That's a, right.
So being able to speak that language to yourself, because you're self-taught, that enables you to create the outcome. But you can't do that without the investigation.
That's true.
Right. It's still hard. It's still hard because I've got to go deep inside of myself and be vulnerable with my flaws. And what we do as men, we mask those flaws. We mask everything. We'll mask it with alcohol, we'll mask it with women, we'll mask it with anger, we'll mask it with competition, right? We won't sit and take this time. And one of the things that has been so beneficial in the dissolution of my relationship at this time is really, I have to take this moment and really say, and really try to get to that point. Where do I want to be? This process, as my boy says, Eli, my good friend, my best friend, he says, if it's not going to be a part of my life for long term, I don't do it. You know, and he talks about relationships. He's married, has a beautiful child, his wife Victoria, they're doing very well. But he said, if I'm not a woman and I didn't think it was going to be long term, if this couldn't be the one for me, then I didn't do it. I walked away from it. He knew that early. He said, I know that I'm going to be prepared and ready for the woman, like you said. So I guess I go back to this question a little bit. What was the journey like for you as a man to get to that space? To say, you know what, I'm ready for my fire.
Okay. So the first question was, before I even think about the system, is who am I? I mean, like really, who am I? And then what is my purpose here on the planet? And then what's my contribution? What's my impact? In other words, being clear about that. And I don't think there's a lot of things that for men, for boys and men, that we're taught to really examine ourselves in that way, because it does take time, but it's the truth. So in other words, if you can't have an authentic relationship with yourself, how could you have an authentic relationship with anyone else? It'll put you in a codependent situation where you're looking for someone to complete you, which is one sexual fulfillment. So you have to have the fortitude, the emotional fortitude, to not be afraid of looking at who you are as a man. And then how you came to be this way without judging it, but just analyzing it and not having an opinion. I think that's probably where the confusion comes in. We have opinions about things, but not an analysis. And for whatever reason, because we got to go deeper, we just rather stay with the opinion. So I really had to do that hard work, that very painful, often shameful kind of work to see who am I and why am I this way, and then decide deliberately what's the highest version of myself, and then what does it take to get there.
Right, and that is the process, I think, and oftentimes if you do that work after the breakup, you can find the best person. Sometimes we will jump back in because that's the easiest way. We have not done the homework, we haven't done the hard work, we haven't done the self-analysis. I just want to get back in because I don't want to be alone. I'm fearful of this space. I don't want to be alone. I can't stand waking up by myself. All of these different things that weigh into the voice that plays in our head. That, you know what, I can be complete. I can just jump to the next thing, and I'm gonna be all right. No, you got to be able to do that hard work. As we think, and we've got a couple minutes before we go to break. Men and women both don't really get to see this, and particularly for men and women of color. I know I'm fortunate. I grew up in a household with mother and father intact. They've been married for 52 years. 52 years in grade school. Oh yeah, exactly. But how often do we get to actually see that billboard? I mean, print, TV. We don't get to see strong, healthy relationships of color. What kind of message is that sending to our young people who are coming up now, who are readily to throw things away?
Well, let me say that neither one of us have seen it. You know, our parents, both of our parents, weren't together. You know, we both grew up in single mother homes, and so we had to fight for it too. I remember when I was talking to him at the beginning of our relationships. You know, just on the phone, we were talking about that love that everybody really thinks doesn't exist. And the young people, what I've noticed, we do a lot of work with young people, and they don't believe in love. They really don't. They believe
That's
love
sad.
is
That's
weak.
tragic.
It's tragic. They believe love is weak. They believe you get married or you get in a relationship for a reason. Like,
It's transaction.
Transaction, or you're using them for something. They can help you with this, or they do this, or they do that. It's not unconditional love. And to me, the answer for that is always self-love.
Right.
Because really, I mean, people talk about self-love, and it seems like it's such a weak theory, or it's whatever, love yourself, whatever. But this thing, once you understand it, once you know it, you can really see what it is that you are giving and realize you're giving from abundance in you, and then attract that in another person. And you can't do anything really without it, is what I noticed and what I know. What I know as a person who talks about self-love and practices it on a regular basis, people don't believe in it because they don't know that it is in them.
Because they don't see it.
Right, they don't see it. They definitely don't see it. And it's just a culmination of, you know, it not being real. Everybody not think it's real. You don't see it from your parents. You don't see it from your communities. You don't see it, you know, so it can't be real. And so you tell yourself and show yourself that it's real. And I really can't come out of that frame of mind because I know that it works. I understand it. And so as I'm raising my children, even before they had this example of me and Brother Shad, I asked them about loving themselves. Right. You know? And I see in your eyes, you know, when you look and that it's not really an answer. You know, but I'm going to let Brother Shad continue. Because self-love is the answer to me. And right. Because it's something that you have to dig and find and reflect and do all these things as far as what you've seen in your household, what you see in media, what you see, everything. You have to do an analysis of all of that, yourself and also what you see around. And once you dig deep into this work, you realize that it is real. It has to be real. Go ahead, Rachel. How much you do?
Okay. I love the answer. Okay. I love it. No.
Self-love is my answer for everything.
I think the challenge may be, and we talked about the visual examples, and we, particularly young people who are very, very visual, they don't necessarily understand what they're looking at isn't necessarily true.
The reality.
Just because they can see it doesn't make it really real. And I'll give you an example, because my parents were not very honest with me. They lied to me. And I'm saying they lied to me because they presented something, they presented things, and they really focused on appearances and how things looked. And that was a horrible setup, because when I wasn't able to create those things for myself, I thought something was wrong with me. But that wasn't the case. What I was looking at was a mirage. And so that's usually what ends up happening, is people are looking at, even if they looked at us, without understanding the work that we did individually and collectively to be this way, they still got nothing. It's just a picture, and maybe a good looking picture. But it doesn't give any kind of clue on how you create that. And so there again, in order to get that, you have to experience a process. So there's still this overemphasis on the event. Show me the thing, what's the thing, what's the thing? But we're saying that the process to getting there is invaluable, but the process is the whole game.
The process is the whole game.
It's the whole game. It's not, because what you're looking at now, this is an event that you're seeing, but there was all the stuff that we did before this happened, for you to see.
Exactly.
That's the thing. So not being clear about that sets people up for it.
Right.
They just never had to experience.
Right. As we go to break, I want our listeners to think about this. Why are young men socialized to be with multiple women, and women are not? You know, we have this socialization practice. It's cool. You know, why do we socialize young men? And the other question I want you to think about is why do we feel that monogamy is the best option for life and success? We look for you on the other side of the break.
I'm in the box of self-love. I realize that, and people don't really understand what it is.
I mean, Is this I love that. Is this me loving me? And if you think about it, if you're in a relationship that is strenuous, that is tough, that is, where you have to really think, is this me love, are you asking yourself this question, is this me loving you?
Well, the main question is, who am I? I think too much of it is we're in these relationships or related with people, we're not even clear about who we are.
Right.
And we're trying to distract ourselves by using these other people.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about being alone, or not wanting to be alone, that's an opportunity. Why don't I want to be alone?
Yeah, it's about
if I
a lot of therapeutic time.
Why don't I want to be around me? So I'm saying if you're afraid to be around you, if you don't want to be around you, that says that you don't even put a premium on you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't put a premium on you, what are you doing when you're trying to hook up with somebody else?
Right.
How could you do for them what you're not even willing to do for yourself?
Exactly. And those are hard questions, I think, that everyone has to ask. And the show is really about getting men to ask these real strong questions.
Move the needle.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I want me to do. And selfishly, this is an hour of therapy for me because I get to have this conversation.
Since
You take all the insurance.
But I have a wonderful therapist, and we talk about a lot of stuff that we actually bring up on the show. But really, that self-analysis that we won't do to really be healthy. To really be healthy and then be able to give to our partners to give what they need to actually hear in the first place what they need.
I think I heard you say something about what men won't do, and I think the way self-love sounds is that it's a feminine thing for only women to do. But this is something men have to do.
Men have to do.
And if you are getting in relationships with people just because you don't want to be alone, you are not loving yourself.
You're not loving yourself, no.
And so, there's something that Brother Shaq hasn't talked about a lot today, in particular, as far as your process on loving yourself. But Brother Shaq's been through counseling, all kind of support, because he knew, in the process of analyzing himself, is that he wasn't truly loving himself. And there were some things that he needed to do first, and that attracted, once he got to that point, that attracted us, that brought us together just naturally, positively, because we were both in the same space, ready to walk out on that fully and completely. And, I particularly don't think monogamy is the healthiest.
Right.
I really don't. Honestly,
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't even think human beings don't think we're naturally monogamous.
This is
part of a construct.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're socialized. Men definitely get less black for it.
Right.
But we are all socialized to think that you're supposed to be with one person for the rest of your life, and
Culturally, that's not always been the way.
Right? That's right. And the cheating and the lies, like you said earlier.
Because that's the...
What did I say to you? Sorry, y'all getting the full version.
Yeah.
What did Dr. Wilborn and I say to you?
Your small teachers and your big teachers, and about honesty.
And being honest about
yeah.
those, and how men have a preconceived notion about what women expect and want out of relationships.
Right, exactly.
And then making the decision for them to lie and not tell the truth because they think they know what our truth is.
Right. Well, you didn't tell us your truth, well, we didn't ask.
And
there you go.
What? Yeah, I would say, but did you really want to know?
Welcome back to the What's Your Revolution show. I'm the host, Dr. Charles Corprew, here with Mama Fire, Brother Shaq, and on the periphery,
I'm not here.
my good friend and producer, Rachel Bayou Lois Lane Graham, doing her thing. We're having some good conversation. If you're watching on Facebook, you got a real taste of what we're going to talk about for the rest of the show. It's really about monogamy. Go back to that question that I asked. Men are socialized, and that's going to lead us into the second part. Men are socialized that it's okay to be a player. That that's a part of. Why did we get there? Why did we get that message early on, Brother Shaq? That that's our role.
I think for black men in particular, we have to look at history. And we have to look at what the black man's role was on the plantation. And his primary function was reproduction. It wasn't cultivating healthy relationships and providing protection and direction for anyone. It was created more enslaved Africans for these white people. And that's what our value was. And so we've only been off the plantation for 152 years. So when the black man walks off the plantation with that one skill, it's no wonder he goes from house to house to house to house to house creating children, because that's what his daddy told him. That's what my daddy told him. So this is it's a pathology, but it's not because we're inherently bad and irresponsible people. This is learned behavior that we've been socialized into. And we have the entire system of patriarchy backs that up and supports that. So it says to us that we're supposed to dominate and dehumanize other people, particularly women, and that women are not human, and it doesn't matter just their bodies. And so we're supposed to be a player in a conquest, and that's what manhood is, and that's what masculinity is. So we learn how to be men by looking at our white dad, and we're trying to emulate them in a system that we don't have full membership, and we don't have partial membership.
And that is our masculinity. That is our man. That's how we get into the game mentally. That's how we perceive.
So we come from a very flawed place that is built on dehumanization and exploitation, and mimicking behavior. And we feel a sense of lack because we don't receive the full benefits of patriarchy in the white man.
Right.
So we want to oppress. We want to compound the oppression on black men, particularly. So where they're ours to oppress, we get a chance to pretend to be the white world. And because that's been our example of man. And so that's completely flawed. But because we're not having an analysis of that, we're trying to operate in the confines of that. And so we're on conquest, and we're supposed to be.
And you think about, you think about the health ramifications of that. If we bring the health conversation into this for a few minutes, for a few seconds, I mean, that can be detrimental to your health. You think about STI, HIV, all of those Hep C, all of the various things that can happen if you are risque with your player. And we have to think about that. This is a learned behavior that, as you say, has been passed down, that we have to curb possibly, or do it healthily.
Well, understand why and where it comes from, and then have a real authentic relationship with yourself. In other words, I don't know many, I didn't have them, but I don't know how many young brothers are sitting down talking to older brothers at a very young age. When I first became sexually active as a teenager, no one sat me down and asked me, why are you doing this? And what are you doing in school? And what do you need sexually? And what do you want to do sexually? And why does this feel good? Like, to have that question, to examine that, instead something outside of you is defining what your realm is, and then you're trying to be that because you're thinking there's nothing authentic about it. I'm saying that's just disingenuous.
Nobody has that conversation. You're exactly right. My father, and I tell this story all the time, walked into my room, threw a box of condoms. I was 15 years old, and said, "Don't ever say that Dad never gave you any." That was the sex conversation. That was it. That was the sex conversation. Go get them. Hey, do your thing. Be safe. I know you're a 15-year-old boy. I know what you're gonna do. Do your thing. But to ask that question, I had a conversation with my line brother Seiko, good brother of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and I was on his show the other night, and he was socialized somewhat differently than I was. His peers and his parents told him that you should never leave a woman worse than she was when you met her. That you should be able to bring value into her life. That conversation never really happened to me. My boys were like, it's all about how many women that you have. College, high school, it was the thing. Oh, hey, man, you were with her. I want to do the same thing. There was a glamorization of being a player. And so it harkens to this next question now. And we had a good conversation. I'm ready to hear what Mama Phi has to say about this. Is monogamy the practice that leads to the healthy version of ourselves?
No. I think every person will answer that differently. And that's what's important. It's up to you. But not necessarily does monogamy lead to the healthiest version of yourself. Which leads to the healthiest version of yourself is the truth and honesty about who you are in relationship to other people. Right? And then Brother Shaq talked about you got to figure that who you are.
Right. Be clear about that first.
Be clear about that, and then the decisions that you make from there. But no, not necessarily. I think we've been socialized to believe that that's just how it goes. That's how relationships go. And then people lie, people cheat, and not just men lie and cheat. women lie and cheat all the time.
Sure.
Yes.
And it doesn't, for some people, it does not fit. Monogamy does not fit for them. And sometimes serial monogamy fits, where you're just monogamous for a little while.
Right.
Until you meet another, And so we have to know who we are first before we start making these huge decisions about our sexual practices, who we are sexually. You got to dig real deep into yourself to understand that, and then move around and, as a person who knows that about themselves, where there's no lying, there's no cheating, there's only honesty about who you are and who you connect with. Sex is such a sacred thing.
It is.
Right.
Yeah, a sacred moment.
Yeah, sacred moment. Wow.
Don't apologize.
Hey, I'm not. Because I'm learning to really express, who I am, and where I am, and I'm not embarrassed about saying that I love that part of my life, and that's who I am, and I love the expression of that with my partner. But it's interesting that you just said, because particularly in our community, that's something that's not something that's said too much. That monogamy is where it's at. If you're black, it's about monogamy. It's a religious perspective. Man and a woman. It's right there. You said something that people are gonna be like, wait a minute, I don't know, Brother Shaq.
Well, I mean, what she talked about it's still rooted in you being clear about who you are. See, that's what I'm saying. Monogamy is not necessarily the way, but then nothing else is necessarily the way. It's a very individual and personal choice, but that's got to be rooted in the truth of who you are. That's the work that has to be done first for you to know it. The idea that you're trying to adhere to somebody else's, ideals or principles or whatever is an external thing. And the problem with the external thing is that it's going to ultimately be an imposition, because it's not authentically who you are. So you're going to be in conflict with yourself trying to adhere to somebody else's idea, especially if you don't have your own. So that's why you have to do the investigation first and know who you are and what's right for you to make a choice, because that's what the show is about the choice that's right for you based upon the truth of who you are, not on who you think you should be because somebody else said that that's what you should do. That's cowardice. And there's no way for you to live the best expression of yourself in freedom.
Why do you think men are actually afraid to say that?
I don't know. I think because if
maybe I'm transferring. Maybe this is another experience of transfer. Because it was something, and I'm sorry to cut you off. It's something that I think that I have been afraid to say because there has been this blowback. So I have been called a player most of my life. Player. Like Corprew's a wanderer. Corprew likes women most of my life. And it hasn't really sat well with me. So this is the vulnerable moment. Everybody that's listening, it's out.
That's cool.
All right. I've had women, say, "Hey, I want to introduce you to my friend, but this is what I heard about you." All right. Even though I have been 2 feet in relationships, but there's still that, Corprew likes women.
Right.
And I'm actually referring to myself as Corprew because Corprew is the alter ego that was created, to actually go out and talk to women. And so for a long time, there has been this, I got to hold this back because of fear of reprisal or stigmatization that goes along with, he likes women and, he's a player. So, men may be afraid to say, this is what I like because of that label. How do you get past that?
I think, I'm going to let Brother Shaq definitely say what he needs to say, but you said it in your opening thoughts about maybe not wanting to give an open relationship up because of the selfishness of the other person too. And I think truly women are seen as possessions. That if they're just their bodies and you're here for me, okay, but I gotta do me over there too. But you stay put. You stay for me.
She just called me out.
It's all good. I think there's layers on this thing. A reason why men are afraid to say things. I think men are afraid in general about getting real about themselves and be sensitive, about their emotions and these kind of things and their wants and desires too. And I think we have to work on that as a culture. Period.
Definitely. I think what she's saying is the authentic relationship piece. But that has to happen with you first. And so it's like if you're really good and clear with who you are, you can be exactly who you are with someone else. Now, if that doesn't work for them, then they have the opportunity to decide that, and we have to be okay with that. But if we're doing that, we don't have to have what I call the resistance living, where you're trying to be somebody else that you're not really, because you want this and that, and you're just playing a game.
Right.
And that expends a lot of energy. And plus, it's dishonest, and you still don't reap the benefits of being fully who you are, which is a disservice to your own humanity. So if you're not going to give yourself that, how could you ever give it to anybody else?
That's right.
Right. And what the biggest piece for me in this growth. Oh, hey, Rachel, you want to say something?
I want to say something.
Your mic's not on.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
My earphones are on.
Okay.
You can't hear me?
I can't hear you. No, we cannot
Oh,
hear you.
man, Jazz.
You got you.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, you were just trying to play like you couldn't hear me. You think you're cute. So I think back to the Jay-Z 444 remix conversation, I think there's also some socialization that happens with women. That women are socialized to place those pressures on men and to present, like you said, this unfittable example. Like I was socialized that in my mind I was going to be married by the time I was 24, 2 years after college. But I was going to have 2 kids before the age of 30. And so, you couldn't hear me. So I'll say that again, that women are socialized to place those pressures on men and to make it unacceptable to actually have authentic conversations. So there is onus on both sides that men don't feel comfortable and that women do in fact place the pressure that helps them not feel comfortable in really having authentic conversations about relationships.
You're listening to WBOK1230 AM. This is the What's Your Revolution show. Sitting here with Brother Shaq and Mama Fire of the True Love Movement and my good friend and producer, Bayou Lois Lane, Rachel Graham, as we unpack the benefits or maybe not of monogamy. And we just heard a revolutionary perspective that monogamy may not be the best choice, that you have to, as they've both been saying throughout the show, you have to really be authentic with yourself and really be able to be honest. And I think that is the key. And
That's the true love movement.
that is the truth. Exactly. And honestly, what I've learned in unpacking that is that to get past that fear of actually being honest. Because I think there is a fear there, and I know one of my flaws is that I will hold the truth thinking that I am actually protecting you, which can be very problematic, because once the truth comes out, then all of a sudden I'm not protecting you anymore.
We play games because we're not being honest. So I think when we're talking about the self-love aspect, the extension of it is creating a space between people where you can be exactly who they are. And if you're not doing that, then you're not loving yourself. And there's no way you can do that for someone else. So you can't get away from yourself with this. It's got to be the thing that you do for yourself, which enables you to extend that to other people, and you realize they're just like you. And that there is no need to play a game, because guess what? It might not be for everybody.
Right.
And so, but the people who have to investigate themselves to understand what's real for them, and it has to come from a real place. They can't do it because you said people should be monogamous, or somebody else, or their Bible told them, or somebody. They can't do it for that reason, not authentically, because it won't make them really, really happy, and they're going to negotiate their life with it, and that's going to come out somewhere else.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's going to come out somewhere else. And then we're going to say, why are you doing that? You're sneaking around, you're lying, because there's this thing inside the person that is trying to get out. And we're saying, no, that's bad, you shouldn't do that. So now people have self-esteem issues and all this kind of stuff, because they're just trying to be who they really are. So when we love people, we support them who they are.
So is this a conversation that you have that between your partners early on in the relationship? Is that one of those, as Dr. Wilborn said, let me tell you my big T truths early on?
Yes.
Is that a conversation that you have?
Definitely.
Yes, and we have had.
Definitely.
As a couple.
Right.
Definitely.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have that conversation. So you have to really be willing to be revolutionary and authentic very early on. I remember asking in my last relationship, the first question, do you want to have children? So, I mean, early, very,
Right.
very, very early, because that's something that was important to me. I guess there was other conversations that maybe needed to happen early that maybe didn't happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, you just had priorities, and then you just had priorities.
Yeah, I had priorities. Like, can you still want to have a kid?
Right. Yeah. Well, first, you mentioned it earlier. Like, don't hold back on the truth. Whatever the truth is, I think is worth it. It's valuable in dealing with that up front, because at least then everybody knows. Would you say that that's probably where the problems come in, when people are not honest up front, then they're going to come back on the back end and say, well, you know, really, and now we got an issue potentially. Give people the opportunity, and again, it can't happen unless you know what it is first.
Right.
So
Right.
you still got it. You got it.
And there's something so empowering about walking like you talk. It's empowering about touching base with who you are and personal liberating to just walk like that in every aspect, at work, in relationships, at church, wherever you go. You know, and so this is how you represent yourself in this truth to everything, everybody. And it won't, you know, and as you change, it may change. For whatever reason, this is how we have to walk. You know, and so when you have the first conversation with somebody you don't like, they may need to know some truth to see if they want to hang.
Right,
You know,
right.
And so we had those conversations, and we still here 8 years later.
Right, exactly. And I think for men, we underestimate, again, going back to what Rachel and Dr. Wood once said on our show, we underestimate how women are going to react to our truth. You know, and because we've been socialized to think that if we tell you our truest self, you don't want to be with me, and I'm going to protect, because you know I'm feeling you. I really want to, you know, do my thing and be a part of this. If I don't tell you who I really am, you'll stay around a little bit longer.
But we've been socialized not to respect the humanity of women enough to tell them the truth. And that's the real problem.
Right.
We don't look at them as being worthy of somebody that we want to be real with. We'll be real with our friends that lie to our women, and that's supposedly okay. That's code. That is insane. Because I say, if a brother would be dishonest with his woman, I don't want him around me, because I know he'll do me something.
Right. That's true.
But so
That is true.
So we can't overlook and call it what it is. It's patriarchy. That's patriarchy.
Mhm.
We're taught, and we have it's very, very explicit that women, or like you said, we just talking about women, like not that they're really people. It's just women. You just tell women whatever. I mean, like that's the
They're
message.
just women, right?
That's the
They're
message.
ornamental.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's fundamentally wrong.
And so true partnership is really never underestimating your partner, and never taking for granted her womanhood and her power in that.
I would say not her womanhood, but her humanity.
Your humanity. I love
Just
that.
only because I think sometimes when we talk about, even when we're talking about manhood and womanhood, we place a premium on manhood.
We do.
You know, as though womanhood is a small thing.
There's a privilege that comes along with masculinity and manhood. Let's delve into this conversation a little bit. The show's about to end, and it always, every time you're having a good time, it goes by so fast. For our friends who are saying, you know what, I'm all about monogamy, what do you think the benefits are? You know, those people who choose to be in a monogamous, this is my partner, and this is my partner, and this is who I'm with. What do you think the benefits are for them who make that choice?
And I think monogamy can be beautifully satisfying. It's definitely the healthiest thing to do. We talk about STDs, STIs, and those things as well. And I think it'd be satisfying for someone two people who want that in each other, who can grow and build this beautiful, you know, union with children and families. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it can be a beautiful thing when both people want it. I think it is very, you know, the most healthiest thing to do as far as mind, body, and spirit for people who are naturally monogamous.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with monogamy. I think monogamy is very, very good. But whatever you choose, it has to come from a real place. And so the question is really, are you choosing monogamy because you're scared of something else? See, because if it's rooted in fear, and this is my teacher, my teacher, and she's shown me myself many, many times that if you're doing something that's rooted in fear, it's not authentic. So you still have to resolve whatever it is.
Right.
So even if you're choosing monogamy because you want to be acceptable to so-and-so over there, is that really me? Or are you just choosing because you're scared and you don't want your partner to go do nothing that you want to do?
Right.
What's that about?
Or you don't want this label all around town about you.
Right. So what's that about? You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
exactly.
And so, but again, in order to find out course, you got to do the self-assessment
Do
to
self-assessment.
know what that is.
So this question is monogamy unrealistic? Is it unrealistic? I mean, thinking based on the conversation we've been having, you may choose monogamy, but is it unrealistic? Are there realistic expectations that go along with saying that I am monogamous?
It's an arrangement, right?
I would have to ask people who are actually monogamous and really monogamous, because there are monogamous relationships where people cheat and lie and no one's the wiser. Sometimes women turn a blind eye to what their husbands or what their boyfriends do, just because that's just how it goes. And so we would have to speak to a couple that is really monogamous to say if it's realistic. And I think, I lived a life of single monogamy. I've definitely had where I'm monogamous for a certain amount of time, and then I choose a new relationship, and that's how my life has been led. And we talked about that at the very beginning of our relationship, so that he can understand, what's happening with me, and he has also led that same lifestyle too. And so I think it can be realistic for people who, this is just a theory, because I'm not really sure. It hasn't been my experience. If it's realistic, I think there are some places or some proof that it is realistic for some people. I know that it isn't realistic for me. I've been with the same person for the last 40 years. I don't know. And maybe your parents,
Yeah, we
your parents
50 some
maybe-
old. Yeah, I don't even know if I want to start asking those questions.
Right.
Well, but
right.
I tell you what, that could make for an interesting conversation.
It will.
And the reason why I'm saying that, and I'm not saying what you do or you don't, but to think about it. Because if you think you're looking at monogamy, right? Because you watched it for all this time and you think that's what you're looking at, and if that is what you're aspiring to, you don't necessarily have the tools to achieve that.
Right.
Because you don't really know what that is. Because it may not really be that. It just may appear to be that way.
And it's interesting that you say that, because most people look and they will say, well, you saw this model of monogamy and marriage, and you're 46 and you're single, and you talk about not ever wanting to be married. Like, I want partnership. I'm down for partnership, but marriage is just not my thing. And so I'm really open about that, aren't I?
Very. All day. Every day.
All day long. I'm open. I do not want to get married. I want partnership, but I don't want to get married. But that is really interesting to be able to then ask that question, and to really have that vulnerable conversation with my parents, maybe individually, and then collectively.
You just might get the truth.
Might get the truth. That is a very, very interesting thing. As we begin to close out, and I want to appreciate you all and the tremendous knowledge and vulnerability and conversation that we've had today. I think the question for me is that men have this warrior mentality. Does that warrior mentality get in the way of us being true to ourselves and true to our partner? It goes back to that question of monogamy or polyamory or open relationships. Does that warrior mentality for men get in the way of us being our truest selves with our partner?
I don't know if it's the warrior spirit that you're talking about that gets us in trouble. I think anytime we're lacking balance, it gets us in trouble. So if we're lacking balance in anything that we do, there's going to be a problem, including relationships with other people and with ourselves. The truth of who we are. Just to pull from something we just talked about, and we talked on our show Saturday, we talked about the dark side. And we were dealing with positivity. Mama Fi, break that down right there.
Just how positive also has a negative. It's like a dichotomy. Up has down, dark has light, all these things. And so it's all part of one thing. It's like yin yang, both of it. And so that's what we talked about today. I think when I hear warrior, I think of honesty. I think of truth. Like when you're walking in a warrior spirit, this is who you are,
Right.
I
love that.
So,
That's right.
I love that. I appreciate everything that you brought to this conversation. You have been listening to the What's Your Revolution show, powered by Aetna.
Yes.
This has been a great conversation with True Love Movement's Brother Shaq and Mama Fire. Rachel is sitting next to me to tell me what our show is for next week.
Well, next week will be a rebroadcast.
Oh, that's right. We will be out of town. So
But
we actually may replay this.
I think we should play this again.
I think we should play it again.
Don't get confused. If you hear this next week and we say we may play this again next week, it's not going to be that. But the following week, we're going to talk about black men and black roles on television.
That's right. You have been listening again to the What's the Revolution show. Always think about the most thought-provoking question of your life. What's your revolution? Take care. Thank you for coming.
Right on.
Have a great week, everyone.
That's all right.
Also,
Shout him out here. Shout him out here.
Thank you, bro.
Thank
Right
you.
on, man.
Oh,
Enjoy it,
man. Thank you.
Enjoy it.
Appreciate that.
You all tune in to the True Love Movement on Saturdays at what time?
5 o'clock, right here on WBOK 1230 AM, real talk for real times. And also, I wanted to say this if I could.
You can.
So, in line with what we were talking about on September 23rd.
Yes, at Tacrema.
At Tacrema for the Tacrema Ma'afa commemoration. We're having a panel, a community discussion panel, and we're going to tackle what does black masculinity owe black women and girls.
Oh, yeah.
I should have. If I had known about that, I would have told you to ask you.
So please come out and check that out.
Bye.
Bye.